Chapter 56, Connor. The dormitories are divided into units. There are 30 kids per unit, 30 beds in a long, thin room with a large, shatterproof windows to bring in the cheerful light of day. As Connor prepares for dinner, he notices that 2 beds in his unit have been stripped, and the kids who slept in them are nowhere to be seen. Everyone notices, but no one talks about it, except one kid, who takes one of the bunks because his mattress has broken springs. "Let a newbie have the broken one," he says. "I'm going to be comfortable my last week." Connor can't remember either the names or the faces of the missing kids, and that haunts him. The whole day weighs heavily on him, the way the kids think he can somehow save them when he knows he can't even save himself. The way the staff keeps waiting for him to make a mistake. His one joy is knowing that Risa is safe, at least for now. He had seen her after lunch when he stopped to watch the band. He'd been searching for her everywhere, and all that time she was right there in plain view, playing her heart out. She had told him she played piano, but he never gave it much thought. She's amazing, and now he wishes he had taken more time to get to know who she was before she escaped from that bus. When she saw him watching that afternoon, she smiled, something she rarely did. But the smile was quickly replaced by a look that registered the reality. She was up there, and he was down there. Connor spends so much time with his thoughts in the dormitory that when he looks up, he realizes that everyone in the unit has already left for dinner. As he gets up to leave, he sees someone lurking at the door and stops short. It's Roland. "You're not supposed to be here," Connor says. "No, I'm not," says Roland. "But thanks to you, I am." "That's not what I mean. If you get caught out of your unit, it's a mark against you. They'll unwind you sooner." "Nice of you to care." Connor heads for the doorway, but Roland blocks his path. For the first time, Connor notices that in spite of Roland's muscular build, they're not all that different in height. Connor always thought Roland towered over him. He doesn't. Connor prepares himself for whatever Roland might have up his sleeve and says, "If you're here for a reason, get on with it. Otherwise, step aside so I can get to dinner." The look on Roland's face is so toxic it could take out an entire unit. "I could have killed you a dozen times. I should have, because then we wouldn't be here." "You turned us in at the hospital. If you hadn't done that, we wouldn't be here. We all would have made it safely back to the graveyard." "What graveyard? There's nothing left. You locked me in that crate and let them all destroy it. I would have stopped it, but you never gave me the chance." "If you were there, you would have found a way to kill the Admiral yourself. Hell, you would have killed the Goldens if they weren't already dead. That's what you are. That's who you are." Roland suddenly gets very quiet, and Connor knows he's gone too far. "Well, if I'm a killer, I'm running out of time. I better get to it." He begins swinging, and Connor is quick to defend, but soon it's more than just defending himself. Connor taps into his own wellspring of fury, and he lets loose a brutal offensive of his own. It's the fight they never had in the warehouse. It's the fight Roland wanted when he had cornered Risa in the bathroom. Both of them fuel their fists with a world's worth of anger. They smash against walls and bed frames, relentlessly pummeling each other. Connor knows this is not like any fight he's ever had before, and although Roland doesn't have a weapon, he doesn't need one. He's his own weapon. As well as Connor fights, Roland is simply stronger, and as Connor's strength begins to fade, Roland grabs him by the throat and slams him against the wall, his hand pressed against Connor's windpipe. Connor struggles, but Roland's grip is way too strong. He slams Connor against the wall over and over, never loosening that grip on his neck. "You call me a killer, but you're the only criminal here," screams Roland. "I didn't take a hostage. I didn't shoot a juvie cop. I never killed anyone until now." Then he squeezes his fingers together and shuts off Connor's windpipe completely. Connor's struggles become weaker without oxygen to feed his muscles. His chest heaves against the absence of air, and his vision begins to darken until all he can see is Roland's furious grimace. Would you rather die or be unwound? Now he finally knows the answer. Maybe this is what he wanted. Maybe it's why he stood there and taunted Roland, because he'd rather be killed with a furious hand than dismembered with cool indifference. Connor's eyesight fills with frantic squiggles. The darkness closes in, and his consciousness fails, but only for an instant, because in a moment his head hits the ground, startling him conscious again, and when his vision starts to clear, he sees Roland looking down on him. He's just standing there, staring. To Connor's amazement, there are tears in Roland's eyes that he tries to hide behind his anger, but they're still there. Roland looks at the hand that came so close to taking Connor's life. He wasn't able to go through with it, and he seems just as surprised as Connor. Consider yourself lucky. Then he leaves without another word. Connor can't tell whether Roland is disappointed or relieved that he's not the killer he thought he was, but Connor suspects it's a little of both. Chapter 57, Lev. The tithes at Happy Jack are like first-class passengers on the Titanic. There's a plush furniture throughout the tithing house, there's a theater, a pool, and the food is better than homemade. Sure, their fate is the same as the Terribles, but at least they're getting there in style. It's after dinner, and Lev is alone in the tithing house workout room. He stands on a treadmill that isn't moving because he hasn't turned it on. On his feet are thickly padded running shoes. He wears a double pair of socks to cushion his feet even more. However, his feet are not his concern at the moment. It's his hands. He stands there staring at his hands, lost in the prospect of them. Never before has he been so intrigued by the lines across his palms. Isn't one of them supposed to be a lifeline? Shouldn't the lifeline of a tithe divide out like the branches of a tree? Lev looks at the swirls of his fingerprints. What a nightmare of identification it must be when other people get in Unwind's hands. What can fingerprints mean when they're not necessarily yours? But no one will be getting Lev's fingerprints. He knows this for a fact. There are tons of activities for the tithes, but unlike the Terribles, no one is forced to participate. Part of preparation for tithing is a month-long regimen of mental and physical assessments, even before one's tithing party, so all the hard work is done at home before they get here. True, this isn't the harvest campaign his parents had chosen, but he's a tithe. It's a lifetime pass that's a good anywhere. Most of the other tithes are in the rec room at this time in the evening, or in any number of prayer groups. There are pastors of all faiths in the tithing house, ministers, priests, rabbis, clerics, because that notion of giving the finest of the flock back to God is a tradition as old as religion itself. Lev attends as often as necessary, and in Bible study he says just enough of the right things so as not to look suspect. He also keeps his silence when Bible passages become shredded to justify unwinding, and kids start to see the face of God in the fragments. My uncle got the heart of a tithe, and now people say he can perform miracles. I know this woman who got a tithe's ear. She heard a baby crying a block away and rescued it from a fire. We are Holy Communion. We are manna from heaven. We are the peace of God in everyone. Amen. Lev recites prayers trying to let them transform him and lift him up like they used to, but his heart has been hardened. He wishes it could be hard enough to be diamond instead of crumbling jade. Maybe then he'd have chosen a different path. But for who he is now, for what he feels and what he doesn't feel, the path is right. And if it's not right, well, he doesn't care enough to change it. The other tithes know Lev is different. They've never seen a fallen tithe before, much less one who, like the prodigal son, has renounced his sins and returned to the fold. But then tithes don't generally know many other tithes. Being surrounded by so many kids just like them feeds that sense of being a chosen group. Still, Lev is outside of that circle. He turns the treadmill on, making sure his strides are steady and his footfalls are gentle as can be. The treadmill is state-of-the-art. It has a screen with a programmable vista. You can jog through the woods or run the New York Marathon. You can even walk on water. Lev was prescribed extra exercise when he arrived a week ago. That first day, his blood test showed high triglyceride levels. He's sure that my and Lane's blood tests show the same problem as well, although the three of them were captured independently and arrived a few days apart from one another, so no connection among the three of them can be made. Either it runs in your family or you've had a diet high in fats, the doctor had said. He prescribed a low-fat diet during his stay at Happy Jack and suggested additional exercise. Lev knows there's another reason for the high triglyceride level. It's not actually triglyceride in his bloodstream at all, but a similar compound, one that's a little less stable. Another boy enters the workout room. He has fine hair, so blonde it's practically white, and eyes so green that there must have been some genetic manipulation involved. Those eyes will go for a high price. Hi, Lev. He gets on the treadmill next to Lev and begins running. What's up? Nothing, just running. Lev knows the kid didn't come here of his own accord. Tithes are never supposed to be left alone. He was sent here to be Lev's buddy. Candle lighting will be starting soon. Are you coming? Every evening a candle is lit for each tithe being unwound the next day. The honored kids give a speech. Everyone applauds. Lev finds it disgusting. I'll be there, Lev tells the kid. Have you started working on your speech yet? I'm almost done with mine. Mine's still in bits and pieces, Lev says. The joke goes over the kid's head. Lev turns off the machine. This kid will not leave him alone as long as he's here, and Lev really doesn't want to talk to him about the glory of being a chosen one. He'd rather think about those who aren't chosen and are lucky enough to be far from the harvest camp, like Risa and Connor, who to the best of his knowledge are still in the sanctuary of the graveyard. It's a big comfort to know that their lives will continue even after he's gone. There's an old trash shed behind the dining room that's no longer in use. Lev found it last week and decided it was the perfect place for secret meetings. When he arrives that evening, Mai is pacing in the small space. She's been getting more and more nervous each day. How long are we going to wait? She asks. Why are you in such a hum? Lev asks. We'll wait until the time is right. Blaine pulls out 6 small paper packets from his socks, tears one open, and pulls out a little round Band-Aid. What's that for? For me to know and you to find out. You're so immature. Mai always has a short fuse, especially when it comes to Blaine. But tonight there seems to be more rumbling beneath the surface of her attitude. What's wrong, Mai? Lev asks. Mai takes a moment before answering. I saw this girl today playing piano on the chop shop roof. I know her from the graveyard, and she knows me. That's impossible. If she's from the graveyard, why would she be here? Asked Blaine. I know what I saw, and I think there are other kids here I know from the graveyard too. What if they recognize us? Blaine and Mai look to Lev as if he can explain it. Actually, he can. They must be kids who were sent out on a job and got caught. That's all. Mai relaxes. Yeah, that must be it. If they recognize us, says Blaine, we can say the same thing happened to us. There, says Lev. Problem solved. Good, says Blaine. Back to business. So I'm thinking we go for the day after tomorrow, on account of I'm scheduled for a game of football the day after that, and I don't think it'll go very well. Then he hands 2 of the little Band-Aids to Mai and 2 to Lev. What do we need Band-Aids for? Mai asks. I was told to give these to you after we got here. Blaine dangles one of them from his fingers like a little flesh-colored leaf. They're not Band-Aids, he says. They're detonators. There was never a job on an Alaskan pipeline. After all, what Unwind would volunteer for such a job? The whole point was to make sure no one but Lev, Mai, and Blaine volunteered. Their van had taken them from the graveyard to a rundown house, in a rundown neighborhood where people who had been run down by life plotted unthinkable deeds. Lev was terrified of these people, and yet he felt a kinship with them. They understood the misery of a betrayed life, and they understood what it was like to have less than nothing inside you. And when they told Lev how important he was in the scheme of things, Lev felt, for the first time in a long time, truly important. The word evil was never used by these people, except to describe the evils of what the world had done to them. What they were asking Lev, Mai, Blaine, what they were asking them to do wasn't evil. No, not at all. It was an expression of all the things they felt inside. It was the spirit and the nature and the manifestation of all they had become. They weren't just messengers, they were the message. This is what they filled Lev's mind with, and it was no different than the deadly stuff they filled his blood with. It was twisted, it was wrong, and yet it suited Lev just fine. We have no cause but chaos, Cleaver, their recruiter, was always so fond of saying. What Cleaver never realized, even at the end of his life, is that chaos is as compelling a cause as any other. It can even become a religion to those unlucky enough to be baptized into it, those whose consolation can only be found in its foul waters. Lev does not know of Cleaver's fate. He does not know or care that he himself is being used. All Lev knows is that someday soon the world will suffer a small part of the loss and the emptiness and the utter disillusionment he feels inside, and they will know the moment he raises his hands in applause.